Wilson, good as he throws deep downfield. It's going to be caught.
Welcome everyone to the Propcast, part of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. NFL Week 4 is upon us. Recording here on Tuesday evening, the newest episode on the Propcast here, where we teased it last week, NFL Week 3 on the Thursday night football episode that we did with myself, of course, and with Chris there. And we had Sebastian come on and kind of do an injury news update and break down thoroughly the injuries that are happening across the league. And we had conversations after that. We said, we should just spin this off to a separate episode, additional content for our loyal listeners and the DJs on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network and beyond. But so what we'll do here on this episode, it's going to be a brand new episode weekly, and it's exactly what it is, right? We'll talk about the injuries that are transpiring across the league, guys that may be coming back, guys that are going to be out for maybe a game or two or day to day. And the star of the show, it's going to be Sebastian, and joining me, he's here, the DJ and Doc himself, Sebastian Fearon. Sebastian, what's going on, my man?
Hey, how we doing, brother? Yeah, I mean, hey, it's good to be invited back, let alone let's make this our own thing here. So I'm excited, man. Like you said, week 4, it's a great week. It's no longer a quarter of the way through, adding that 17th game. So we don't have to say that quite yet.
Yeah, not just yet. Maybe at like around the halfway point on Sunday, you could say, for about a quarter of the way through the season here. But yeah, and then, like I was mentioning, right, I think this was a great addition to just having more football content, because it could tie into several different things, right? Number one, we get to talk about the injuries that some of these guys are going through right now. And I'm not the expert. It's going to be Sebastian. This is Sebastian's the star of this show. He's going to break down the injuries. He's going to give the diagnosis. He's going to give the time frame on when we to expect how long these players will be out, and we'll turn that into a broader conversation, and also tying that into a betting perspective, right? Obviously, we are a gambling network, and we'll talk about players that we should be targeting or maybe looking at in the player prop market, on who those replacement guys will be from the skill positions, right? Whether it's going to be a quarterback, whether it's going to be running back, wide receiver, tight end, even defensive props there as well. So this should be a lot of fun. I know, Sebastian, you do your own show, obviously, on SGPN. Maybe the listeners of Propcast don't exactly follow you, which I don't know why they're not following you on X and on the social platforms. But I mentioned this last week, and Sebastian just absolutely does a fantastic job of putting it into really simple terms, just breaking down injuries, what the extent of those injuries are, how long, like I mentioned, those players are going to be out, and what do we expect from the team there as well. But Sebastian, I'm going to turn this over to you. I just wanted you to kind of introduce yourself to at least the Propcast listeners, your background, things like that of the nature, and then we'll get into kind of going game by game the injuries around the league for NFL Week 4.
Yeah, hell yeah. So first of all, what's up, guys? Happy to be here, man. Happy to be part of this Propcast group here. So Sebastian Fearon. I am a physical therapist for the United States Army. So I'm in the Army. I don't just work for them. I wear the uniform every day. I went to the University of Florida to get my undergrad in basically a fancy exercise science degree. When I wasn't, tailgating and drinking beer, I was learning about injuries. And I went up to the University of Pittsburgh to get my doctorate in physical therapy. Steel City, watched some great football, met my wife, and eventually joined the Army from there. So that's why you see all these mix of things there. Born in Jersey, so I am a Giants fan, as unfortunate as it's been recently in these past couple of years. But hey, we got a big Thursday night game against the Cowgirls, so we'll see if we can pull that out. But yeah, do a show with my buddy, actually from my class where I graduated with. We are both physical therapists. We break down a little bit more from the injury side. With the DGen Docs, definitely check that out. A newer show, just brand new this year. So, hey, we're trying to build something over there. But I'm happy to be part of this Propcast, some seasoned veterans over here getting to join you guys. So, and I think the cool thing about this show is a lot of times you're not going to get a lot of these injury news and not really know a whole lot until Wednesday, Thursday, where it's almost too late, right? Whether it's waiver wire from a fantasy perspective or, trying to make sure you get the best number. Props, as this audience definitely knows. The better you can get in, if you're really feeling something, usually that number is going to go down as we get closer to people betting on it, and you kind of get the public on it. So I think this is a nice injection of, hey, let's start thinking to week 4 right away and start jumping on some good numbers.
Yeah, 100%. I know last week we talked about it. And I know the one we really targeted was Tutu Atwell. And that one really came in fairly easy for us with all the injuries that the Rams were dealing with on, honestly, both sides of the football there, but also right there at the wide receiver position with both Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp. I think we already saw a note that Sean McVay said that it's very doubtful that Cooper Kupp, he's not going to be playing this week for the Los Angeles Rams. So Ashton, before we do get into it here, make sure you guys check out the newest podcast on SGPN, Get to the Point, hosted by Sean Stacking the Money Green, Doug Stanhope, and Brendan Walsh. Every Thursday before the game, Doug, Brendan, and Sean give out their favorite plays and talk a ton of shit. Doug and Brendan are professional comedians. You may know them from the Joe Rogan podcast, the Howard Stern Show, and Comedy Central. So make sure you guys subscribe wherever you do get your podcast. All right, Sebastian, let's get into it here, man. Obviously, like we mentioned, NFL Week 4 kicks off on Thursday night football with the New York Football Giants, fresh off of their first victory of the season as a 6 to 6.5 point underdog, going into Cleveland and getting the outright victory there. Another big outing from Mr. Malik Neighbors there. But again, they do have a big divisional game at home as they will be welcoming the Dallas Cowgirls, who did take that final score last week was not really indicative of how that game was going for the Cowboys. But let's get into the injuries here. I'm going to turn this over to you, Sebastian. What are we looking at for injuries in this game?
The Cowgirls definitely dressed that one up a bit at the end. So, as much as this is going to pain me to say, Giants definitely on a disadvantage when we talk about the health-wise, right? So CeeDee Lamb popped up on the injury report with an ankle injury. He's been a full go 2 days in a row, so he's going to be good to go. On the other side, you've got cornerback Adoree Jackson and cornerback Andrew Phillips. That's our nickelback and our CB2, both not practicing 2 days in a row with a calf injury. At this point, they just injured their calf. There's a 95% chance both those guys are going to be out. Huge loss, especially when they get CeeDee Lamb in the slot. One of the reasons we drafted Andrew Phillips in the third round, I believe, was to guard CeeDee Lamb in the slot. So this spells trouble. We already don't have anybody who can cover CeeDee Lamb on their own. So now we're bringing in 2 backups onto the field. As much as I would love to say Tay Banks is a CB1, he's just not. I mean, Amari Cooper beat him twice for a touchdown. He was the only thing that pass offense can do. So unfortunately, as much as it pains me to say, even at 81.5 yards where his line's sitting at right now, in this game, I'm just targeting CeeDee Lamb. You can get cute and go Dak, or if you want to go Cooks or see something else, but we don't have anyone on the field to cover Lamb, and we're likely going to be out 2 guys in the back end.
Yeah, I mean, right now, looking at the player prop market, 80.5, I see over on DraftKings right now, but definitely, again, shop around and get the best number, like we always say here on the Propcast. So a couple of injuries there for the New York Giants in the secondary in this game here. Anything else for this game, Sebastian, before we get over to the next one?
No, I don't want to really get too cute here. That's the biggest kind of like what stuck out to me right away. Again, if you want to take the Dak, passing, that's something that is doable. Devin Singletary has looked pretty good if he can hold on to the damn ball. Let me see what his rushing prop is at, because Derrick Henry just ran through that entire Cowboys defense there at 60.5.
Mm-hmm.
I still like the Lamb play better.
All right, let's get over to the Sunday card here. We'll go over to a big game in week 4, the NFC North, to a divisional battle here between the Minnesota Vikings and the Green Bay Packers. We did see Sam Darnold was dealing with some type of knee injury, but from everything that I've read, he should be okay for this game. But again, I'll turn it over to the expert here, Sebastian. Vikings and Packers, what are we concerned about in this game?
No, yeah, you're right on it, man. The Vikings kind of, I don't want to call it luck, but they're just good fortune continues. He missed 1 snap. He came out. He got kind of bent awkwardly. Nothing too concerning by the mechanism of injury, kind of by that awkward tackle. It just looked a little awkward. There was basically no excessive force put on his knee. MRI confirmed, came back clean, showed a contusion, which is just a bruise. So good to go there. Justin Jefferson jammed his finger, negative x-rays, which is huge for him to have no breaks, anything like that. So he's going to be able to go. Worst case scenario, he tapes it up, but I'm not worried about Justin Jefferson right now. And then Jordan Love, he was practicing last week. They originally gave this 4 to 6 week timeline, and now they kind of moved that up a decent bit. So he's only he should be 3 weeks off of his MCL now if he plays this week. He's got a good chance to play, I would say, to be able to play. Now it becomes a question of, hey, do you play at 75, 85% Jordan Love, or do you roll with Malik Willis, who's been, obviously playing pretty well? They are a little bit more limited and maybe a little bit more one-dimensional going against a really good Vikings defense. So that's going to be interesting. I think if Love plays, he's going to be, good enough, but his mobility is going to be the question. I don't think he's going to be fully kind of healthy in that regard. So it's going to be interesting to see who he plays. I think if they roll Love out there, I like the Vikings even more.
Is there a concern for Jordan Love that he may make the injury worse if he comes back too soon, or in your eyes, is he coming back too soon right now, or she should probably still give this another couple weeks?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough because, we go off of what they say, and that initial 4 to 6 week recovery timeline tells me it's a grade 2 sprain, which, grade 1 is a minor. It's all about how much tearing it is. Grade 3 is full tear off the bone, whatever it may be. Grade 2 is kind of in the middle. It's a decent amount of damage, not quite fully torn. So based off that, I would think this is too soon. But MCLs have the best healing potential out of any knee ligament. They have a really good vascularity. So guys can, it can be an injury that does come back pretty quickly. So as much I do have some questions on the Packers medical staff. I mean, this offseason, they had 3 guys have a pec tear, including their head coach, because they were speed benching or some shit like that. Something I've never heard of. Look into it. It was a good story if you're into any of that stuff. But yeah, and I think that I don't think he's gonna, it's a huge risk. Re-injury risk isn't a huge risk. I just don't think he's gonna be 100%. So in my opinion, why not roll with Malik Willis? But I'm very interested to see what they do.
Yeah, I think just because I believe it's a division. I mean, it is a division game. I think that's why I think they're going to bring him back sooner rather than later here. But I mean, look, Malik Willis, the first 2 starts he's made for this team, 2-0, and he made it look really easy, especially last week against the Tennessee Titans, whose defense was supposed to be one of the better ones. So let's move it along here. We'll get over to the next game here. The Steelers and the Colts. Steelers right now sitting as a 2-point road favorite in this game here. Sebastian, what we look at as far as injuries for this matchup?
Yeah. So for the Steelers, outside linebacker Alex Highsmith, groin injury. Good news, not put on IR. Bad news, definitely going to be out this week. This is a tough injury to deal with. For those Steeler fans that remember, Cam Hayward was dealing with something similar all year. Now he came back too soon and re-injured it and kind of tore something else. So let's hope that they learn their lesson there. But the backfield is really what I want to focus on here. Jaylen Warren is a guy who his injuries kind of flew under the radar. It wasn't really seen very well. You probably just noticed why the hell is Cordell Patterson in the game so much? And it was not just Arthur Smith's love for him. Tomlin pulled him, and he said that he wanted him to check out his knee. He got an MRI. They said his status is uncertain for the week. That does not give me a good sign. They didn't say the MRI picked up anything. They didn't say it was clean. They just said he's uncertain. He's probably going to be limited. So I'm really looking at, Cordell Patterson as being their RB2. Now you have Najee Harris seen in a sling after the week's game, but they already said he's going to be good to go with no limitations. Now, there's not a lot about that arm injury there, but I'm really once these open up, I want to see where Cordell Patterson's numbers at, because that's someone who Arthur Smith loves and he wants to get him involved. He likes those big backs. So even if Warren is just a little beat up, he's going to use that excuse to roll Patterson out there.
Yeah, Patterson last week did have 4 attempts, 33 yards in that game against the Chargers, but Najee Harris was again the bell cow for the backfield there. Had another 18 carries for 70 yards. He's had at least 17 carries in the first 3 weeks here, so definitely keep your eye out for the health of Najee Harris. But I do feel like he's going to continue getting the bulk of the work there in the backfield for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Let's get over to the next game on the schedule here. We'll talk about the Philadelphia Eagles. They are headed into Tampa in this game. Eagles currently sitting at a 2.5 or as a 2.5 point favorite as they head over to Florida. Total is sitting at 45 in this game right now as of Tuesday evening. Another team that some more question marks at the wide receiver position. We did see Devontae Smith leave the game on week 3 against the Saints, and still kind of waiting to find out the news about AJ Brown here. But I'm sure Sebastian has all the up to date news about those Eagles receivers.
Yeah. Real quick, I'll talk to the Tampa Bay side just because it's a little bit quicker here. Vita Vea, Kalijah Cansey, Antoine Winfield, huge defensive pieces for that team. All out last week. No current updates yet. Vita Vea seems like the closest. Even getting one of those guys back is a huge kind of impact. So kind of keep definitely, like Munaf mentioned, I'll be putting stuff on X because those are such big injuries. I want to follow them. But keep those in mind. But yeah, like you mentioned, Eagles side, right? They've got 2 guys with a concussion, both right tackle Lane Johnson and Devonta Smith there. Mekhi Becton picked up a hand injury. But yeah, AJ Brown with the hamstring, and then Britton Covey got put on IR with a shoulder injury. So that's 3 wide receivers you're potentially missing. Definitely Covey out. AJ Brown at this point, I think he's going to still be out one more week. He's getting close to that 3-week mark there. Picked up that injury late Thursday heading into week 2. So really kind of he's really only 2.5 weeks by the time it would be Sunday. So that's a little early. Hamstrings are concerning because they're the most burdensome injury in the NFL, and you feel better before they're actually healed. Your tissue is still damaged, but you feel good. So guys go out, they're used to performing at a high level. They go out, they try to run a route, and they take it too soon. It only takes one, and then boom, and now you're set back. And typically, a re-injury is worse than the initial injury because you're taking damaged tissue and damaging it even further. So, hey, look, I know it's a big game. I know they want to get revenge off that playoff loss there, but I would advise the Eagles to kind of be cautious there and not try to bring him back too soon. But one to watch for him. And then Devonta Smith and Lane Johnson, we're talking about the concussion. We talked about this a little bit last week with the Tua conversation and things like that. So first, what is the concussion? A little bit of a traumatic brain injury, disruption to brain function. Call it kind of an energy crisis. What it means is it's taking energy away from your body and your brain really that it usually uses for decision-making, processing information quickly. And that is the game of football, right? Trying to take an environment that's constantly changing, rapidly changing, and trying to process that and make your next move, make your next cut. Concussions kind of mess with that process, which is why it can be a little bit difficult. They do have variable timelines. Now, typically 1 to 2 weeks, most guys come back. 5-10 years ago, majority of guys were returning in the same week. We've kind of seen a shift, and we haven't really had a ton of concussions this year other than Tua, which his was just so public. I think they kind of had to put him on the IR. This is going to be interesting to see how the NFL plays this because, even last season, they started to get stricter. And then if we remember, Brock Purdy had one, and he came back the same week. Trevor Lawrence came back. So it seems like they kind of switch-flop of, how strict they're going to be. So I'm kind of very interested. The key here with concussions is Thursday's practice.
Yeah.
If they have a limited practice on Thursday, it is very likely that they have a good shot to play. If they are not practicing by Thursday, they're 95% not playing because they need a limited and a full practice. In rare cases, they will hold a special Saturday practice for a guy. They did it for Trevor Lawrence last year, but it doesn't happen often. So Thursday's really your key. If your guy's not practicing by then, or if the player you're targeting, it's probably a good sign they're not going to be there.
Do you think it'll ever come to a point that players that do get diagnosed with a concussion that the NFL says that you have to sit out mandatory a week?
That's a tough one. That's just so tough because the recovery timelines, they are just truly so variable. When you're talking about the brain, you can have, a concussion and have someone violently vomiting and not able to, be dysfunctional for weeks. Some of these things turn into a long period, months even. And then you can have a guy who picks up a concussion and a couple of days later, he's perfectly fine. So I think that, in the kind of realm of player safety, which I think they're making a lot of changes that aren't always the safest. They just kind of can kind of use that guise of the term. It might happen, but I don't think it's the right decision as far as just of how variable those injuries can be.
Mention this for the Eagles. They have the week 4 trip to Tampa Bay, and then they do have a bye week in week 5. So I think that will be huge. for especially a guy like AJ Brown that's dealing with the hamstring injury. And then week 6, they have a home game, against the Cleveland Browns there. Anything else for this game, Sebastian?
No, that's it.
All right. Before we get over to the next game here for the NFL Week 4 injury report, let me tell everyone about our good friends over at Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy Pick'em is always adding to their awesome menu. They now have first touchdown projections. There are a ton of ways to win with the NFL, college football, MLB, MMA, and more. Their lobby is always jam-packed with profit boosts and no sweat entries, and you can now use specials and boost on all flex entries. So make sure you guys sign up with promo code MACHINE to claim your special pick and first-time deposit offer up to $1,000 in bonus cash. That's UnderdogFantasy.com. Make sure you use our promo code MACHINE. All right, let's keep it rolling here. Let's get over to the next game on the schedule for Sunday. We'll go over to the Cincinnati Bengals. They are going to be in Carolina to take on the Panthers. The 1-2 Panthers. They went into Vegas, and boy, Andy Dalton looked like he turned back the clock there, just absolutely knifing up the defense there of the Raiders there. But I know there were some injury news coming from the Panthers side. Sebastian, I'll turn this over to you, man. Bengals, Panthers.
Yeah, geez, all the dads in America were so excited seeing Andy Dalton throw a nice pass to Adam Thielen there. It was great, but unfortunately, just like many middle-aged men in America, he pulled his hamstring, and he's going to be on IR. They already put him on IR, so he's going to be out 4 weeks. They're probably closer to 4 to 6 weeks with that grade 2 hamstring strain. So fortunately, he's going to be out. For the Bengals side of the ball, right tackle Trent Bound, torn patellar tendon, out for the season. That's an offensive line that was already questionable, and now they're even more questionable. Their defensive line is still beat the hell up. So I think in this game, I do like Dalton to get a little revenge, but I really like Chuba Hubbard to take care of that kind of decimated defensive line up front. I think that he was involved in the pass game as well. He had a really good game, just having some competent quarterback play. So I kind of like Carolina a bit to get some action there. Now they will have to replace Thielen. So, is this going to be more Deontay Johnson's target? Are they going to get Mingo, Leggett, the rookie? Who's going to get it more involved? So we can have the conversation on that, kind of who would be most beneficial, or who would it benefit most with Thielen being out. But he's going to be out 4 to 6 weeks.
Yeah, quickly on Chuba Hubbard. I mean, last week, 21 attempts, 114 yards on the ground. He did score a touchdown for this team as well. Let me just take a look. You also mentioned the passing game there for Andy Dalton, and also Chuba Hubbard, 5 receptions, 5 targets, 55 receiving yards. There's our total with as 169 yards of scrimmage yards for Chuba Hubbard in week 3 for the Carolina Panthers. And it was really the coming out party for Deontay Johnson last week, right? Because he was pretty much held in check, or lack thereof, because of Bryce Young, and that offense just looking very, very anemic over the first 2 weeks. But last week, 14 targets for Deontay Johnson, 8 receptions, 122 yards, and the touchdown. I personally think, Sebastian, I'll get your take here, of course, as well. I think it'll be more Deontay Johnson. I think those targets, maybe not be up to 14 again, but I think that he could get into the realm of 8, 9, possibly double-digit targets again for this Panthers team, especially going up against the Bengals, who we just saw on Monday Night Football. Couldn't even stop a park cone. It was just so bad for this defense. But I think Deontay Johnson would be the guy that would, benefit the most here with the absence of Adam Thielen.
Yeah, no, I would tend to agree. That's kind of his MO. He's a huge target guy. He's guys that gets a lot of receptions. That's kind of what he does. So there's no reason he shouldn't be popping over double digits. I am interested in Xavier Leggett to kind of, as a little bit of that wild card flyer, to see kind of what he was able to do. Look, 2 catches for 42 yards last week. So it seems like he's got some big playability. So that might be a fun one where you're going to get some decent odds to just kind of throw a flyer on, someone that can definitely, we saw Terry McLaurin a couple times get behind that defense. So if someone's going to do it, it's going to be him, and Deontay's going to get all the targets underneath.
Outside of the revenge angle, obviously, for Andy Dalton here, but he looked really good last week. 319 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, passer rating of 123.6. And we saw just on Monday Night Football what Jaden Daniels was able to do against the Cincinnati Bengals there. So I think this might be another game where I think we see some success for the Carolina Panthers in this game. All right, let's move along here to the next game we want to get to here. That is going to be battle of the NFC South teams. The New Orleans Saints, they are in Atlanta to take on the Falcons. Falcons currently sitting as a 1.5-point favorite in this game with a total of 42 here. What are we looking at for injuries in this NFC South battle here, Sebastian?
Yeah, this one's just all about the offensive line for both sides. Saints center Eric McCoy, groin injury, needs surgery, going to be out 6 to 8 weeks. On the Atlanta side, center Drew Dahlman put on the IR with a high ankle. Right tackle Caleb McGarry, MCL sprain, likely going to be out this week and probably a couple more. Still waiting on the severity there. For me, you got a divisional rivalry game already, and you have offensive lines that are beat up. Saints offense was flying, in the first 2 games, and then they kind of hit a very fast halt. And I think McCoy going out early had a lot to do with that. And similar to the Falcons, they were looking pretty good against the Chiefs. And when those guys went down, Kirk Cousins had no time. So I really like the under in this game. I know it's not quite in the prop field, but before these props come out, total sitting at 42 right now. I would have liked it without these injuries. And with these offensive line injuries, I think it's a really good opportunity to have 2 offenses that are going to stall a little bit.
Yeah, I think we talked about this last week for Thursday Night Football, that the offensive line for the New England Patriots was severely injured. And we saw the Jets get 7-8 sacks on Jacoby Brissett and Drake May there. So if you do have a book that offers those sack props, whether it's total sacks for the game, typically around 4.5, sometimes they even do have team sacks available. I think this would be a game because the offensive lines are kind of beat up. If you want to look at those defensive sacks, I think they could probably be other game props, but you can also get obviously individual guys to get sacks in this game here as well. And when we talk about offensive lines, I think that there's a significant downgrade when the top guys are out, because again, number one, offensive lines are not really talked about a lot because you also have to have that chemistry as well, right? Not only with your offensive line, but also with your quarterback. And I think that's only to the advantage of the defenses there. So I would be looking at a sack prop in this game. I'm going to try to find it somewhere where total sacks combined for this game. I think the over definitely would be over the number for this game.
No, I love it. Yeah, sack props. If you haven't bet a sack prop before, you're not living, man. It's a fun time. I was on Von Miller over quarter of a sack last night, plus 270. Gave that out. It's fun. It's a fun watch. It's not just watching the offense, watching your guy trying to get after it. So definitely encourage the sack props. It's a great point there.
All right, let's get over to the Jacksonville Jaguars. They are in my part of the world, another division game here, as they will take on the Texans. Texans currently sitting as a 7-point favorite at home with a total of 45.5 in this game here. Sebastian, what are we looking at for Jags and the Texans?
Yeah, Jags, the news just gets worse. They're really, really stud linebacker Foye Oluokun, leading tackler on their team, year in and year out. He's dealing with some plantar fasciitis. He's going to be out for several weeks, it looks like. That news just broke a little bit. Right tackle Anton Harrison picked up a knee injury, and he's also not a good player. So his backup is even worse. So you saw that right away when he had to come out of the game last night. And Everett Ingram, it's a short week. It's hard to trust him here. Even if if he is active, it's probably not someone I'm throwing out my lineup right away with him only having those 2 weeks to kind of be in the recovery period. So on their Texans side, it's mostly good news at this point. Tank Dell picked up a hand injury, but it looks like D'Amico Ryan said things should be good to go. So as of right now, not a lot of concerns for the Texans. The Jags just continue to have concerns all over the field.
All right, let's move it here to the New England Patriots. They are headed to San Francisco to take on the 49ers. Niners currently sitting as a 10-point favorite in this game with a total of 39.5. And Sebastian, we'll probably sit here for another 2-3 hours just talking about all the injuries that the 49ers are going through right now, but it just has not been very good. I know they got more bad news after the game against the Rams here, but I'll let you rip and run, and we can definitely take our time with this one if we need to.
Yeah, the one Pats update I have is that left guard City So has been dealing with a high ankle sprain all season. He's returning to practice, so he's got a shot to play. Like we talked about, like you've mentioned, that Patriots offensive line was beat up and very bad. So if any help would be welcome there. And then, yeah, let's talk about it. So quarterback Brock Purdy looked like he picked up some back soreness. He did have a clean MRI, something to monitor with the back. I mean, as anyone who's had low back pain, it's, the number one disability in the world. So most people have had it. Certain days it feels great and certain days it cannot feel good. It takes one hit. So that's never something I want my quarterback to have. But as of right now, he should be tracking to play. CMC seen going on a flight to Germany to go join the Tom Brady treatment and get some needles there, some stuff that's probably not FDA approved. But he's going to see a specialist about his tendonitis. Look, tendonitis is either acute inflammation or degradation of that Achilles tendon. Not something you want to mess around with, because if you play on it and it's already degraded, Achilles ruptures can happen. So he's looking to try to get any type of, whether it's PRP, anything to essentially get inserted in the tendon and help to regenerate some growth, regenerate some strength there. That's not a good sign, because he's eligible to come off IR pretty soon. And that tells me that he's nowhere close to being ready to come back. So, they're clearly looking everywhere they can all around the world for answers. So I would not be expecting CMC back anytime soon. George Kittle is expected to return to practice tomorrow. 1 week off a hamstring is not somewhere I want to be. So we'll see. But unless he rips off a couple full practices, I'm not having a lot of faith in George Kittle. And then finally, defensive tackle Javon Hargrave, torn triceps, going to miss the entire regular season. That defensive line, they got rid of some guys in the offseason. They've been beat up, and now they're getting even more thin. It's something to watch for. They still have Bosa and Leonard Floyd, but there's not a lot in between the tackles there.
Yeah, they have the game, obviously, like we mentioned, against the Patriots week 4. Then they have another home game against Cardinals, and then they have this. They go to Seattle. They have Kansas City coming to town, and then they have the Dallas Cowboys coming to town. So a little bit of a tough schedule here for the 49ers here. Sebastian, in your eyes, when would you even expect CMC to be back? Is this going to be week 10 after their bye week? Is it more latter part of the season, week 12, week 13? I mean, would we be even surprised if we even saw him for the rest of the season, honestly?
Before this news, I was kind of thinking, maybe at the week 8 mark, something like that. But yeah, I think week 10 now, and after their bye week is kind of almost best case scenario. It's a little bit tough because we're not getting all the information, but this kind of trip out to Germany, like if you're kind of healing normally and things are going as expected, you don't go on a flight to Germany to see something.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So this is not good news in the signs of this. So I think week 10 after the bye week is almost best case. Now, when he does come back, that means that everyone feels safe and comfortable with him. And, it will be someone I'm looking to play kind of right away, because they've been so cautious with him. But that's the question. When we come back, I think week 10 is kind of at this point, maybe the target is moved from week 8 to week 10, but it might keep moving back depending on what we hear.
Yeah. And I think there really is not going to be a hurry, because Jordan Mason has been absolutely fantastic the first 3 weeks of the regular season at that running back position. 147 yards against the Jets, 100 against the Vikings, and he did have 77 last week against the LA Rams there, and their come from behind victory for the Rams there to now the Niners have fallen to 1-2 here. But again, looks like CMC, at least at minimum, we don't expect him back until week 10, which will be against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in Tampa on November 10th. All right, Sebastian, before we keep it rolling here, my man, let me tell everyone the newest sponsor on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, that is going to be BetUS. We're brought to you by BetUS. Bet with the best in the business, BetUS. BetUS has been around for more than 30 years. Easily deposit using cryptocurrency and get lightning fast payouts. Support SGPN and get yourself access to another great book by signing up at BetUS. Use our link to sign up and get a 125% deposit bonus on your first 3 deposits. Again, use our link to sign up and get a 125% deposit bonus on your first 3 deposits. Go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/BetUS. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/BetUS, promo code SGPN. So they know that we sent you. BetUS, America's favorite sports book. And we're also brought to you by Rhythm. SGPN's proud partner, Rhythm, is the #1 AI-powered backed sports betting platform that helps provide bettors of all levels the ability to build custom predictive betting models in seconds and get predictions for betting on money lines, spreads, totals, and props. Build your own model, copy one of the top performing models from the leaderboard, or press build a model for me, and Rhythm gives you predictions for every game and player prop, and also has a myriad of stats, research, and trend analysis to give you even more betting insights. So claim your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM. All right, let's keep it rolling here. Let's get over to the next game here on the schedule. We're going to go over to the game between the Washington Commanders and the Arizona Cardinals. Commanders, like we had talked about, fresh off of their victory on Monday Night Football, just having their way on the offensive side, led by Jaden Daniels, who was absolutely fantastic in that game. Terry McLaurin had had a 100-yard receiving game for the Washington Commanders there, but the Cardinals fall in week 3 to the Detroit Lions. But Sebastian, injury concerns in this game, Commanders and Cardinals.
Yeah, let's start on the O-line again here. Just want to mention Cardinals right tackle Jackson Barton ruled out with a toe injury. He was already the third string right tackle for this team. Wow. Jonah Jackson's on the IR. Kelvin Beachum was out with a hamstring injury. And now Jackson Barton, got ruled out. We'll see for next week. But, who's worse than the third string tackle is the fourth string tackle. So this is absolutely going to be a concern. We could talk sack props. We could just talk about function of the offense there. So something to watch for. If Barton or Beachum can't go, they're bringing somebody off the street. And then you got the big ones, Trey McBride and Austin Eckler, both dealing with the concussion here. We've talked about kind of concussions at length. A lot of the things apply. What I will mention for Eckler is that it's a short week, which kind of decreases his chances. And he flew back home instead of flying with the team to Arizona. They all just went straight to Arizona. He went back to Ashburn, Virginia. So probably not a good sign for this week. Probably likely that he's going to be out this week unless, something a little bit miraculous.
Yeah, I don't think I would expect him to play here in this game, especially like you mentioned. I think that's a great note that he flew back home instead of being with the team. So I think I would expect him to be out for this game. But, I mean, you take a look last week, I should say Monday Night Football. The running game wasn't pretty much, I don't want to say non-existent, but, I mean, they did accumulate 108 yards on the ground, but it's only 3.4 yards per carry. And I think where it did matter the most in the red zone, they got the touchdowns. Jaden Daniels, Austin Eckler, and Brian Robinson Jr. each had a rushing touchdown there. But I think that we could probably see more of Jaden Daniels utilizing his legs because I think that's where he's at his best. I think instead of the yardage, Sebastian, I would honestly look at his rush attempts to go over because he's had double-digit rush attempts in all 3 games this season. Week 1, 16, 10 against the Giants, and 12 last week on Monday Night Football against the Cincinnati Bengals. And maybe if we look at Brian Robinson Jr. as well out of the backfield, and now if Austin Eckler's not there, he'll probably get most of the carries in that game. But I think that's where I'm kind of at in this, at least for the player props in this game. Any other injury news or props you want to throw out?
No, I like the rush attempts. Daniels, their offense puts them in a lot of third and manageables, third and short. So he's picking up a lot and getting out of bounds or kind of getting down. So he's not really ripping off big runs. He's just kind of getting them where he needs them. And I think that's a great call.
All right, let's move it along here to the next game. We'll go over to the Kansas City Chiefs and the LA Chargers, another division game here happening in LA, battle of AFC West teams here. What are we looking at for injuries in this matchup?
Yeah, Chiefs looking pretty clean right now. Obviously, you still have Pacheco out and Marquise Brown or Hollywood Brown out still. But Kareem Hunt just signed to the active 53-man roster. So that just muddies the water even more for that Kansas City backfield. So it's going to be interesting to see how they books even put these lines with the 3 guys that are everyone's viable to get a touch, especially in the red zone. So that'll be very interesting. I may be looking, depending on what their anytime touchdowns are, I might just be taking a shot on the guy who's got the biggest odds there because I think they're all viable to get something in the red zone. All right, for the Chargers side, not so great news. You've got Joey Bosa, who just always, every year, man, just cannot stay healthy. He had a hip injury coming into the game. He got hurt again and picked it up and ruled out. So I think here we go again. I think it's going to be hard to expect him to be anywhere near 100%. Justin Herbert, very similarly, I was trying to tell people last week, you don't play 1 week off a high ankle sprain and have success. Trevor Lawrence tried to do it, and Justin Herbert. I mean, even for his case, it went worse because he re-injured the injury. Now, look, I mean, they clearly want to see if he's going to play. So if they could try to roll him out again, but I think it's going to be the same thing. That's very limited mobility and high re-injury risk, and you just re-injured it. So right now, I'm kind of looking to fade them, and they're both their tackles. Joe Alt and Rashawn Slater left the game. Rashawn Slater picked up a pec strain, which offensive linemen for sure, they use their pecs to push. That's kind of the biggest muscle for them. And then Joe Alt looks like he's going to be missing time as well. So really some significant injuries to this Chargers team with both their tackles, their quarterback, and their best defensive player.
Yeah. Maybe again, I talked about the sack props earlier for the game between the Saints and the Falcons. If you're able to find maybe a Chiefs, team sacks, I think that would be good. That defense hasn't really been talked about and how well they have been playing thus far this season for the Kansas City Chiefs here. So we'll again keep an eye. Sorry, did you already say that Justin Herbert's out for this game, or it's still TBD?
Yeah, we don't know. Yeah, I think he should be, but I thought he should be last week, and they rolled him out there. So the one thing I will say is, if Herbert is out and they do go with, it looks like Heineke was the first guy up last week, I would look into some Heineke rushing.
That's a good call.
In the same fashion of the sacks, like there's going to be a lot of pressure. You have a backup quarterback, like a rookie. They just want to kind of sometimes tuck it and run. So that could be an interesting angle depending on that news as it comes out during the week.
Yeah, I love that. That's a great call there on Tyler Heineke. So again, definitely keep an eye out if we do end up seeing Justin Herbert sitting in this game, or if he is able to go in this game against the Kansas City Chiefs. All right, we'll move it along here to the next game on the board here. We'll go to the Cleveland Browns and the LA Raiders. Raiders are actually a 1-point favorite in this game with a total of 37 in this game here. Sebastian, what are we looking at as far as injuries for the Browns and the Raiders?
Yeah, as bad as the Raiders looked, there's one team that might have looked worse, and that was the Cleveland Browns last week. Yeah. Just a couple quick things here because they're pretty cut and dry. Raiders safety Marcus Epps, ACL tear, out for the season. He's a good player on the back end there. He's a hard hitter, so that's going to be a loss for them. Right guard Wyatt Teller has a grade 2 MCL sprain, typically about a 4 to 6 week recovery timeline. He's definitely out this week. That's an offensive line who's beat up and not good. Jedrick Willis and Jack Conklin, they're trying to make their way back. They're both coming off significant injuries. They both don't look the same. Jedrick Willis has not even played a game yet. So that offensive line that, if they had any continuity, it was in the interior offensive line, and now that's been disrupted. So you can't love that for Deshaun Watson and their odds. And then Myles Garrett, this is an interesting one. He had this injury when he was a child. He had surgery on his feet, and apparently now, all these years later, it's kind of rearing its ugly head back. It's something that's not going to go away. He said he's just going to try to fight through it. That tells me it's not going away anytime soon. He basically said he's going to play until he can't. Well, he couldn't finish this game last week, so I don't know how we're expecting it already to be aggravated and him to just be 100%. So this is something not only for this week, but for the rest of the season. Like, if they start losing all these games, Myles Garrett might just say, let me just go ahead and get this surgery done and call it a season.
Yeah, again, huge concerns there, obviously, for Myles Garrett. I think that he said it was at the end of the game, like you mentioned, that both of his feet were either hurting or injured, was actually the news that I had read. All right, let's move it here to Monday Night Football. A little bit extra time here for some of these guys that may be injured on Monday Night Football here. We'll start with another week that has 2 games on the board, so that's going to be exciting. We got the Tennessee Titans. They are headed to South Beach to take on the Dolphins. Currently, as it stands, the Dolphins are a 1-point favorite here. 36.5 is the total in this game here, Sebastian, and I think more injury concerns at the quarterback position for the Miami Dolphins here.
Yeah, quarterback Skylar Thompson looks like he picked up a rib injury, kind of calling it a chest injury, but it's a rib injury. Those are pretty painful, man. When you laugh, when you cough, when you turn, it hurts. And when you throw football, you have to rotate your body. So they're calling him day-to-day, but I think it's pretty unlikely that he plays. And let's be honest, do you really want to roll him out there if he's anywhat limited? That leaves Tim Boyle, but they did sign Snoop Huntley there. So we'll see if he gets involved in the offense. I think it's an entirely different offense if Huntley can get into the game. Left tackle Teron Armstead and cornerback Kendall Fuller both dealing with concussions. They do have the extra day to kind of help get through the protocol. So that is a kind of a good sign for both those guys. Cornerback Chidobe Awuzie for the Tennessee Titans picked up a groin injury. He's going to miss several weeks. So a defense that now has to try to cover Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, and, those guys on that side, Devon Achane on the backfield. They're going to be missing one of their starting quarterbacks. So that's not really a good sign, but can the quarterback on the Miami Dolphins actually get the ball?
Yeah, again, Skylar Thompson just, again, did not look very good, to say the least, for this Miami Dolphins team at that quarterback position. So we'll see what transpires for this Dolphins team at that quarterback position. All right, so the second game of Monday Night Football will be the Seattle Seahawks. They are in Detroit to take on the Lions. It's gonna be a good game. Top teams, I guess we can say, in the NFC. Lions currently sitting as a 3.5 point favorite in this game with a total of 47. What are we looking at for injuries in this matchup?
Yeah, no, as much as I like the Lions in this game, just I think that the Seahawks are a little counterfeit. The Lions are definitely the more beat up team. They've got defensive end Marcus Davenport put on the IR, season-ending elbow injury. Other linebacker, outside linebacker, rusher there, Derek Barnes, is placed on the IR. I saw. I didn't even catch what his injury was, but that's a big time loss on the defensive side. And then on the up front for them, center Frank Ragnow picked up a pec strain. Now I heard he's trying to play through it, but again, offensive linemen use your pecs all the time. I think it's gonna be tough for him to play just 1 week after that. So there are 3 starters that are going to be likely out. Definitely 2. Sam Laporta is the big one in fantasy. Got his ankle rolled up on. Good news, low ankle, traditional ankle sprain like we think when you roll your ankle, not a high ankle. However, he did try to come back, but he looked the shell of himself and quickly had to go out of the game. He got carted off a little bit. So I think it's probably closer to a grade 2. Really, this one's going to be key with practice reports to give an idea. If it is a grade 1 minor injury, he should be good to go. If it's grade 2, it's pretty unlikely that he plays. Now, I know they've been using him a lot more as a blocker this year than really doing a lot in the receiving game, but that would be a loss there. And then on the Seahawks side, defensive tackle Byron Murphy, the second hamstring injury ruled out. I would find it very unlikely he plays 1 week off a hamstring injury.
All right, so that is the last game for NFL Week 4 for the injury reports and kind of guys that we are targeting for the player prop market for a lot of these games here. And again, I think the theme has really been mostly offensive lines as well. And I think, traditionally on the Propcast, when we do our player props like Thursday Night Football and for the week, we usually don't mention a lot of, I guess, team props or defensive props. But I think this gives us an opportunity to kind of talk more about, those type of props here, at least on this episode, because we get more into the injuries that are happening on the lines there as well, where we're, mostly on the props show. It's more, we know that Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp, those type of players are going to be out, and we're kind of targeting deals, the replacement guys there. But I think, again, this is going to be a really, really good thing going forward here for the season here. Sebastian, anything else you want to mention as far as injuries or anything else for week 4?
No. Yeah. Just, hey, give us feedback, like, comment, subscribe, do all the good things. Let us know. Always with a new episode, we're kind of retooling, trying to make this work, because at the end of the day, we're just trying to get the information to you and make you some money in your pocket there.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's going to be the main thing here for the Propcast here. And we know if we need to change the format a little bit from feedback from our listeners, we'll do it. But I really did like the format here, just kind of going game by game. Not really rapid fire, but trying to get it, because again, we do have bye weeks that will be starting next week here, so maybe a little less to talk about here. But this was great. It gives you guys kind of what we're looking at for injuries as we approach, the first game on Thursday night, and then heading into the weekend on Sunday, and then wrapping it up on Monday Night Football. And that's why you guys need to make sure you guys follow Sebastian over on the Twitter machine at DGenDoc. You can follow me there as well, or sorry, the DGenDoc, I should say, over there on the Twitter machine. You can follow me there as well at SportsNerd824. All right, that's going to do it. Make sure you guys are, like Sebastian said, subscribe to the Propcast, whether it's on your Spotify, Apple, wherever you do listen to your pods. And of course, if you want to watch our pretty faces here on YouTube when we do go live, you can make sure you subscribe there on YouTube. Just type in the Propcast. You'll see the SGPN and Propcast logo. Just do us a favor and hit subscribe there. All right, we'll talk to you guys next week. Till then, good luck with your bets. Let's break these books off, and always remember to let it ride.